Give it to me like.
Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. Today we have another interesting video for you in our relationship series. Today the video is going to be on
our long distance dating experience and the proposal.
Ooh.
Picking up from where we left off in last week's video, we had left our church winter family weekend and we were going back to Alaska and Michigan, which is a 4-hour time difference, and continuing on with our long distance dating, which is kind of something we had already been doing because, I mean, we weren't technically dating, but we were still having that 4-hour time difference. But we will talk a little bit more about that, and I will let you talk about it because this girl over here was so sweet. Woo! Obviously, her time is much later than mine. She had the late end of the 4 hours.
We would actually keep texting to a minimum. We didn't really enjoy that side of long distance dating. A lot can get lost in communication. Both of us had prior long-distance relationships and have learned from too much texting, essentially. One thing we love to do, though, is talk on the phone once a week, every Friday or Saturday night, and we would talk for hours on end. I think we got up to like 8 or 9 hours. So basically for me, that meant going to bed around 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then waking up sometimes 1, 2 a.m. my time, so that I could catch him when it was a good time for him to talk. And like I said, we usually only do this on the weekend, so it wasn't a big deal, but I was definitely living on very, very minimal sleep at that point in my life. But honestly, I enjoyed it. It was a really weird time because I feel like it took all of my youth out of my life, and now I'm just a grandma and go to bed at like 9 p.m. every single night, and I get so mad. I think it's called slankery.
She needs to go to bed when she wants to go to bed, and if anything's holding that up, you don't want to be around for that. It's
which has kind of always been my personality. Even when I was a little kid, I would put myself to bed. So I've always valued my sleep, so you can just imagine how much I've valued him giving up my sleep.
Yes. And that really did mean like a lot to me that she was willing to make that sacrifice. So I always found that really admirable, and it made me feel special. So we did that for about 10 months, and it was very hard. It was rough, but we made it work.
I remember this one day I was at work while we were obviously long distance during those 10 months, and I was talking with one of my coworkers, and she was like, "Oh, it's been a week since I've seen my boyfriend. I just miss him so much." And I was like, "Girl, it's been 35 weeks since I've seen mine, so I don't think you should be complaining." Not to this girl.
So through that 10-month period that we were dating long distance, we made this plan to go to the same Bible college together. We had 10 months of long distance, and then we moved into that, which we were really, really excited about, obviously, being able to actually be around each other and get to know each other, not just over the phone.
So one really cool thing that Justin was able to do was to fly down a week early before our college program started.
Yep. And
just spend time with my family and be at my house. And that was such a special time. And during that time,
she had this really cool idea to go have a picnic by the lake. She had some drinks and some glasses and went to take me to this surprise location that I hadn't been to before, which was one of her favorite spots. And it happened to be by a lake that's somewhat near their house. And I decided to seize that moment as the perfect opportunity to, for the very first time, say that I loved her.
That's something that we had purposely not said in the previous 10 months, just because we felt like, it's a big word and we didn't want to say it prematurely when it wasn't true.
Right.
But after 10 months, we definitely felt like it was. So by then we moved to Ohio together. He, of course, had his guy roommates. I had my girl roommates. Our houses were only like 2 minutes apart, so it was actually really convenient. We shared everything together. I got a new car just a month previous, and it was more convenient for him to keep it and pick me up in the morning rather than me have to get up earlier and pick him up. So he kept my brand new car. That's how in love with him I was.
She bought me a car, essentially.
We did everything from laundry to grocery shopping together. We even had, in my house, we had our own fridge, and we essentially just split the grocery bill and called it even. We did dinners together. Every single second was together besides when we went to bed at night.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun, and I felt like it put us in such a more realistic place of really trying to figure out, okay, could marriage work for us? Because we knew that we only had a 9-month window. I mean, we didn't really want to have to decide after that college program whether it would work or not. We really wanted to see if it would work within those 9 months, because that was going to be the most time that we could spend together in person.
Yeah.
So we really just tried to make it as realistic as possible, and honestly, it was not truly lovey-dovey most of the time. It was, working through some hard stuff, but we got through it, and we're stronger because of it. And there really wasn't a transition period from engaged to married whatsoever. There wasn't really learning any firsts or learning new habits, because we had already had all of that experience prior, which I think was a really cool opportunity that not many people get to have.
So like she mentioned, having to get used to each other, and we spent a bunch of time around each other, and we did everything together. There were some challenges, because that was our kind of, exposure to being around each other for the first time 24/7 essentially, except for sleeping. And it was like so many different personality traits about, she wants to do things this way, I want to do things this way. One example is going to the grocery store, which literally I could not stand. It would go to the store, and she goes in there and just starts pinballing around the store to like get random different items. We're here, and then she like goes over there to the other side of the store to get something, and then comes back over. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, what can we walk in the door and we go through the store and come back out. I don't understand all this like all over the place kind of thing. So there was just like things that just were kind of like, she would irritate me in some ways, and I would irritate her in other ways.
And okay, this guy, I thought he was kind of crazy. He had a specific order of how he wanted to put groceries from the cart onto the conveyor belt.
Yeah, because if you stick the heavy things on the conveyor belt last, then it squishes all of the lighter stuff.
We still struggle with that one. So in December of that year during Bible college, I came down with the worst case of chickenpox. Okay. I'll insert pictures here. They're lovely. Enjoy.
She did not look great. I'll just say that.
But during that time, Justin over here had the bright idea
to ask her dad for Mariah's hand in marriage.
Oh, well, I looked like a witch. So sweet.
You look beautiful. And then shortly after that, I started to experience some very strange health symptoms. I was having to go to the bathroom all the time. I was not sleeping well. I was incredibly fatigued. I started to have like geographic tongue, which if you don't know is like patches of your tongue skin missing. I was super, super thirsty, and my mouth was really dry. So like I would drink tons of water, and for whatever reason, it was like water did nothing. It almost made me more thirsty, it seemed like. And I also started to get sick more frequently. Like, I thought I had like cancer or something bad.
So throughout all of this, we were keeping our parents informed, obviously. And my mom's the sweetest. She reached out and she booked Justin a couple appointments to try and figure out what was going on, because honestly we were both kind of like in a slump, and we wouldn't have taken action as quickly as she did. So it was a true miracle that she took the action and offered that when she did. Yeah. Because when we got to Justin's first appointment, he was very, very nauseous and just very weak. He wasn't fully mindfully present, I remember. And I remember he said he just felt like he was too dizzy to drive, which was interesting. So we didn't really know anything from that appointment. They basically just ran a bunch of tests, and then they drove him home. And that day we were actually planning to drive to my family's house to spend the weekend. And so we ended up just driving straight to Michigan. So the next day at my family's house, we received a call with Justin's diagnosis.
So I picked up the phone, and the doctor was like, you have type 1 diabetes and Hashimoto's, which is a thyroid condition, and you need to get to a doctor right now. So that was kind of crazy. So I think I was in shock to some extent, but I was also relieved because I thought I was going to get a call saying that I had 4 months to live or something.
And the thing was, from the phone call, they told us to be careful about how much sugar he was intaking. But to me, not knowing anyone closely with diabetes, I didn't know what that meant. So we're like, okay, is 2 grams and 2 tablespoons a lot or a little? You know, there was a whole learning curve trying to figure out, yeah, we know what that means, but what does that actually mean?
Yeah. So we ended up booking an appointment with an endocrinologist and got me lined out with everything that I was going to need, and she was very, very helpful, and that was nice. Kind of made me feel better about it, like things were going to be okay. But at the same time, there was so much to learn. Like if you don't know anything and you go into this, there's a huge learning curve where it's just, you got to change the way you live, and you have to change it to something that you know nothing about. And so she ended up putting me on a schedule, because when we started, she didn't know how sensitive I was going to be to insulin. So she started me off with, like, I was only allowed to have 1 unit of insulin, and for me that meant that I was supposed to have 30 carbs. So I was supposed to have limit myself to 30 carbs or less per meal, and be able to have only 1 unit of insulin.
So it was really difficult for me and my mom trying to figure out what exactly to feed him now that his diet was totally up in the air for us. So it was quite the learning curve trying to come up with meals that equaled about 30 carbs, but it wasn't the best in the beginning because the foods that we were just thinking of had more carbs, so he would get less food. But we eventually figured it out. It was fine.
And I was super, super thankful to have them there to help take care of me and everything, because I was not in a good place physically. I was pretty much sleeping all the time, and not really in control of myself. I know at one point I wet the bed, which was really embarrassing, because she came in to say, like, good morning and see if I was okay, and I was like, yeah, I wet the bed. I don't really know how to handle this discreetly. And with the Hashimoto's too, the thyroid conditions really change your mood. So I was like, she was a complete angel for putting up with me, because I was really, really like angry and easily agitated and frustrated and depressed. Pretty much any emotion, I was really easily that way, especially irritation and anger. So until my medication, they were able to kind of kick in and start balancing me out, I was like pretty difficult to put up with. I remember we were going to the store to try to get foods and drinks and things that would be more suitable for me and my new diet. And I don't remember the whole detail or all the details, but I ended up like getting really upset about a certain flavor of Gatorade or something. I don't even remember. It was literally the dumbest thing. I was like, I'm not even talking to you anymore. Like, they don't have the Gatorade. I don't even know what I was doing, but
eventually his levels evened out and it was more okay, but he was still very, very sick. So we made the decision to quit college and just live with my family for the remaining month or 2 left of our program before Justin headed up to Alaska. So during that period, actually 4 days after he was diagnosed, Justin had previously planned to propose.
Say for me, it was really, really special, her having us gone through this diabetes thing together and learning about it, and her just being with me like the whole way, knowing what that was going to require of her to like be married to somebody that has that, and then knowing that, accepting a proposal.
So basically Justin had planned to take us to our favorite restaurant in Michigan, and we had a wonderful dinner together, and then we started the drive back home, stopped at the lake, which he first said I love you at, and just kind of watched the sunset.
Which I had planned to propose at the lake, but it had been raining, and so I had people helping me, right? So I had them like cancel that and start setting up inside somewhere back at her family's house. But there was going to be like music, and it was going to be a whole thing. I was going to have a blanket out there by the lake, and we were going to watch the sunset. I was going to propose, but it was raining, so obviously the ground was wet, and it literally was raining up until we pretty much got to the lake, and then it cleared up and it was like kind of sunny, and so it was a little frustrating. I was like, we could have gone through with it, but it ended up working out all right.
Yeah.
I'll let you finish.
So then we got back to my parents' house, and all the lights were off, which I thought was a little bit strange because I thought everyone should be home. But I walked upstairs, and there was a lighted walkway with rose petals and fairy lights, and there was Justin sitting in the middle of it all. And then he had me watch a video which he had prepared for weeks on 45 reasons why he loves me. And it was the sweetest thing because these 45 reasons weren't your typical one-word answers. They were so thought out and special. It was the sweetest thing. So then after the video, he got down on one knee and he asked me to marry him. And honestly, I don't remember fully what he said, but he did have a little spiel prepared for it. And it was the best feeling in the entire world. And after that, then he sat me down again for another video that he had prepared, which was all of our friends and family congratulating me and saying things that they loved about me. And it was literally the sweetest thing ever, because words of affirmation is my #1 love language, and that just completely satisfied me. It was so cool and just the best proposal ever.
Yeah, then we had her family and some best friends of ours that were helping with it, which was really, really cool. So
yeah, it was the most special thing because I'd always told him I like the privacy of being completely alone, but I don't want to experience it alone. I want them to be able to be there right after. And it was the best thing because I didn't know, I thought we were home alone. I didn't see anyone, but they were all hiding and some were downstairs. So it was awesome because we got to have that special private moment. I thought we were completely alone, and then everyone was right there all of a sudden right after. So it was like the perfect setup.
well, that's all we have for this video. We're going to be talking about our wedding and everything leading up to that in the next video. And if you missed the first part of this story, go back to the previous video and watch that so that you can get the full story. And thanks for watching.
So be sure to like
And subscribe if you don't want to miss out on future content.
Bye!
Bye. Show the through the What was that?
Okay.
You know these chairs squeak.
Justin, that was not the chair. You were